of these Foxconn factories. Talk to me about the conditions you witnessed and what stood out for you.
Well, in general, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was a mini city of about 300,000 workers there. It was fairly tightly packed, but they have their own supermarkets, they have their own fire stations, convenience stores. What I thought was, compared to some other factories that I'd seen in China, which were pretty awful, this one wasn't too bad. Compared to something you may find in Europe or the United States, it wasn't too good. But from a China standard, it was okay. What really struck me, though, was that there just wasn't much to do. There was only 3 or 5 swimming pools. There was only a few computer terminals, one computer terminal for every 40 or 50 people. And these are young kids who come in from the countryside. They don't know anybody, and they all get crowded into these dormitories, and it's a real alienation for them. And once they do have some downtime, they're kind of left at a loose end.
With the people you spoke to, how forthcoming did they seem to you? How willing were they to speak to you on camera?
Oh, most people who work in these kind of factories are always reticent. They're always reluctant to speak openly because they don't want to lose their jobs. And everywhere we went, we had a minder with us. And it was the old case of the minder saying, ask her how happy she is with her job. And I say, how happy are you with your job? And she'd say, I'm very happy with my job. So people did not speak entirely freely to us. Having said that, people did speak freely to us outside the factory, the hundreds or the thousands of people who were desperate to get a job inside that factory, and they spoke of it in glowing terms because they were looking for an opportunity. And
the conditions in these Foxconn factories, how well publicized is it, what you're going to find once you get in there? Do people in China know about it? Does it cause an outrage?
No, because I mean the story that we went there for was this rash of suicides that had taken place, and that had actually received publicity within China, within mainland China, by Xinhua and the other state-run news agencies. So people were aware of it. When we talked with people who were looking for a job outside, they knew that the suicides had taken place. But everyone was like, well, that won't be me. I just want a job. I'll handle it. I'll be okay. And so, the Chinese are very stoic about this kind of stuff. It's like, well, that happened to the other guy, but I'm going to be fine.
And I'm particularly struck by the fact that you say, and you make the point right at the beginning, conditions in Foxconn factories compared to other factories in China aren't that...
They're not that bad.
So how bad are things in other factories?
They're
Explain that for us.
They're hideous. I mean, some places we've been to, the dormitories are awful. They don't get, because it's a little different in China with these factories. The way you get your economies of scale in China, unlike other parts of the world, in the United States, for example, or in Australia or Europe, they herd everybody in and they all live in dormitories together. The girls live in one dormitory and the boys live in another dormitory, and they get woken up and they go to work and they work there 8 hours, or usually it's 12 hours. Sometimes it's a lot more than that, and they get a little bit of overtime for it, and then they get fed, and then they go back to their dormitory, and they may get 1 day off a week. That's it.
Wow.
And those conditions are pretty bleak. At least Foxconn, there was an awareness that there was a problem. They were trying to deal with the suicides. They had set up a suicide hotline. They knew that they had to get more stuff for the kids to do. And that's because, I suspect, because of the involvement of Apple and Dell and these other Western companies that are very, very mindful of their supply chain. Now, other factories, which are pretty grim, that make gloves and cigarette lighters and ties, clothes, toys, they don't really care, and they get these kids in and they chew them up and they spit them out.